starting to get really interested with U.S. immigration. Can Donald Trump give you a green? Hey guys, before you file for your spouse, hey guys, come on in and type in freedom now. I have breaking news today from the U.S. Supreme Court. We're going to talk about the ruling today from the U.S. Supreme Court, which has huge impact for birthright, the move by the Trump administration to end birthright citizenship for children born of undocumented immigrants, in addition to visitors and others on visas, temporary visa to the United States. Today, the Supreme Court ruled in a major way for what the Trump administration is considering certainly as a huge victory. I believe the word that President Trump used was a giant victory. It's huge. It is huge because what this means is that quite a bit of states will be able to move forward with the executive order that President Trump signed in January to limit birthright citizenship. So come on in, say freedom now. Let me know where you're joining from. I'm Latoya McBean Pompey, an immigration lawyer in New York, working with clients nationwide and across the globe at McBean Law. Share this live session if you're able to with other people with your feed so that they understand what's going on. But this is breaking news from the U.S. Supreme Court. Come on in and say freedom now. Freedom now, freedom now. All right, today the U.S. Supreme Court ruled 6-3 to limit the use of nationwide injunctions. We saw this coming, right? A little bit. We saw a little bit of this, some previews along the way that the Supreme Court was moving away from this idea, or didn't like the idea, that a federal judge is able to block nationwide a policy that the federal government is trying to enforce. And so little by little, over the last few months, we saw the court moving away from this idea that these federal judges should have the power to do this. And so in some ways, this is not very surprising. And the Trump administration used this very strategy with regard to birthright citizenship to advance an executive order that would strip birthright citizenship rights away from babies born here in the United States to certain parents, to use this nationwide injunction problem or issue to get birthright citizenship as part of that. And so what has happened now is that the Supreme Court said we don't think that nationwide injunctions should really be used. It should really be class action lawsuits that are advanced rather than nationwide injunctions. And so with regard to birthright citizenship, the executive order, the court placed a pause on the executive order for 30 days. It won't go into effect for another 30 days to allow the Trump administration or challengers, I should say, time to prepare further legal responses. And so this is a temporary pause. And friends, what this means is that only the states that have challenged birthright citizenship right now, they're kind of, there's a big fight that they still have ahead of them. 28 states didn't challenge the executive order, and so these 28 states could actually enforce it. Okay, so the 28 states that did not challenge the executive order can actually move forward with enforcing this in their states. And so this is a huge issue. All right. The Supreme, now it's also very important for you to understand that the Supreme Court did not rule on the merits of whether birthright citizenship is, is something that the Trump administration can get rid of or not. They didn't rule on the merits of that issue or the policy itself, whether it's constitutional or not. They just only focused on the narrow issue with regard to nationwide injunctions. The court emphasized that district court judges can generally only grant relief to the actual plaintiffs in a case, not to the entire nation, unless the case becomes a certified class action. Justice Amy Coney Barrett wrote the opinion for the majority, and she noted that universal injunctions are a modern invention, not rooted in historical practice. Now, this ruling carves out a potential exception for lawsuits brought by state governments. Justice Barrett suggested that in some state-led cases, a nationwide injunction may be necessary to provide complete relief, but left it to lower courts to decide when that applies. This leaves the door open for broader challenges led by states in future legal battles. The decision reshapes how immigration and other national policies are challenged in court, potentially delaying justice for many affected individuals. Immigration advocates and civil rights groups may now need to file multiple lawsuits across different jurisdictions rather than relying on one ruling to protect everyone. Okay, so again, if you're just joining, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled today 6-3 that the use of nationwide injunctions is just not a policy that they support anymore. And consequently, for the executive order touching birthright citizenship, it will allow some states to move forward to enforce that executive order, while other states, they will continue their legal battle. So that's really where we are today, as a matter of fact. So depending on how things go over the next 30 days with respect to challenging this, it could lead to a scenario where a baby born in New York, New York, to an undocumented mother would face a scenario very differently than a baby born in Texas, where, of course, in Texas, they're going to enforce the executive order, and New York is still fighting legally. So it's going to create division among the states, and the division is already there, and it's going to lead to some confusion, obviously. And back at the Supreme Court for a ruling on the merits on whether the Trump administration can, by executive order, actually strip babies of their citizenship. So, guys, that's where we are today. And with that being said, happy to answer whatever questions you might have at this time. Type in your question, and also let me know what you're thinking about this. What are your thoughts on this? But you see the legal strategy that they use, which is the nationwide injunction problem, because they'd like to really move forward with pretty much all of their policy initiatives, and they're trying to do a lot of things by executive order. But as you guys have seen, the courts have been blocking things along the way, and in a nationwide manner. And this is a huge victory for the administration. Huge victory for them. All right, let's see. So for 30 days, the status quo will be in effect for 30 days. My grandson was born 4 years ago. Children born to green card holders are not impacted by this. What I'll do, I do have a video, and maybe we could find it on McBean Immigration TV. I think it was from January, one of my executive order um, live sessions where I talked about birthright citizenship, and we have other videos out there also on McBean Immigration TV about birthright citizenship. So we'll put here in YouTube linked links to those videos momentarily so that you guys can go and get the foundation on the executive order. Thank you. Thank you for being with me today. This is breaking news from the U.S. Supreme Court. And as a matter of fact, if I could just get, I don't know if Sherry could maybe find my talking points on the executive order. I would really love to have that in front of me right now. Um, yeah, so just let me know once that's available, please. The executive order talking points, Sherry. All right, let's keep going. Someone says, this whole thing seems like a scam. Birthright citizenship was included in the Constitution, which is the law of the nation. Yeah, it's for many of us, it's very clear that any child born here on U.S. soil, regardless of who the parent is a U.S. citizen. And this is an issue that the Trump administration tried to touch during his first administration, and they weren't very successful with it. And they had some years to think about some legal strategies that could potentially work. It's there now? Okay, thank you. Um, some strategies that could potentially work, and they decided, well, let's go on the technical route here with nationwide injunctions. We don't like what's happening with nationwide injunctions. So let's just use it in that manner. Okay, let's try to pull this up. I'm looking for the talking points from January. January from my YouTube live session on birthright citizenship. If they were born to parents who are illegal. Right, the parents do not have, at least one of those parents need to have some status here in the United States, like residency status or citizenship. What is the breaking news? So if you're just joining now today on TikTok, we are talking about the breaking news out of the U.S. Supreme Court regarding limiting the use of nationwide injunctions and birthright citizenship, the executive order that President Trump signed in January is the hottest issue right now because the Supreme Court has ruled that that could actually move forward in 30 days. That executive order can be enforced in 30 days. It cannot be held up on a nationwide basis. So that's the biggest news right now. Okay. The ruling means that the practice of extending citizenship, to put it another way, to the U.S. born children of undocumented immigrants and some temporary residents and visitors would end in the 28 states that have not challenged that measure. Okay. Let's see. Someone says it's not constitutional. Yeah, like I think we could all agree. But the constitutional issue hasn't come up yet. Okay, this is not a ruling on the merits. Let's see something here because I do not see. Let's go on this screen here. Okay, let's go. What is the cutoff date? So 30 days. 30 days is everything is paused until 30 days according to the court. So the babies will be stateless? No, they won't be stateless. Let's see. Let's see if I could find it. Let's go into it here. Right. It's not the one. Okay. So again, guys, if you're joining breaking news out of the U.S. Supreme Court, I'm trying to find a particular document here on my end, and I don't see where that, I might need to do another session later, but I need that document. Okay, I don't know what's going on with DACA at this time. DACA is still being held up, birthright. Two kids born to LPR parents, are they U.S. citizens? The children, yes. The children will be considered U.S. citizens. Okay. Let's see. It's not retroactive. The children who are already born, who are already here, they are U.S. citizens. So 28 southern states, you know how it is, right? Republican-led states are not challenging the executive order. They're looking to enforce it so that children born on their soil, so to speak, in their state will not be issued a birth certificate by the local authorities, by the local agency that would normally issue a birth certificate. So it's the usual suspects, the usual 28 states where the children will face a problem unless there's a class action lawsuit in that local jurisdiction. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's go into. Okay, let's get it over here. A little bit over here. Okay. What other questions do you guys have? Would this only apply to new babies? Yes, so to speak, new babies. It's not retroactive. If the baby is already here, it doesn't apply to the children who are already here. Again, I really think that at some point very, very soon, the case is going to go back to the Supreme Court on the merits to determine whether it is constitutional or not. Right now, the biggest victory is on the technical side of things with regard to nationwide injunctions, which we saw coming. We saw this coming, right? And this is just a reminder going back to the executive order that President Trump signed on January 20th, challenging this longstanding principle of birthright citizenship. And in the executive order, it specifically narrows the ability of children to be able to claim U.S. citizenship. U.S. citizenship will not automatically extend to children born in the U.S. if the mother was unlawfully present in the United States and the father was not a U.S. citizen or a green card holder at the time of the birth. Okay. And then it also applies to individuals who are visiting here on a visa. The mother's presence in the U.S. was lawfully here on this visa, but temporary, and the father was not a U.S. citizen or a green card holder at the time of the birth. So in those two circumstances is where the limitation would apply. And then lawsuits, there were a lot of lawsuits that were filed challenging this from the standpoint of it violating the 14th Amendment. And judges early on weighed in on this, indicating that this is crazy, this is ludicrous. It's crystal clear in the Constitution that any child born here in the United States, for the most part, are U.S. citizens. Okay. Will this change affect children that was born to an illegal alien 25 years ago? Will they be stripped of citizenship? It will not go back. It will not go back. It will not apply to them. Let's go down a little bit here. Someone says it's worthwhile to apply for citizenship now. Is it worthwhile to do so while so many changes are happening? Is it worthwhile to apply for citizenship? Absolutely, it is worthwhile. And as a matter of fact, late last night, I filmed a video for you guys from a decision from the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals involving a man. We're going to put this out for you guys this weekend. It's a short overview of a man from Mexico who came to the United States illegally back in 1981, I believe. And many years later, he became a green card holder, and then he became a U.S. citizen. And before he became a U.S. citizen, while his naturalization application was pending, he was actually arrested for a very, very, very significant crime against a child. And he went into his naturalization interview and he lied. He didn't tell them about the arrest. He didn't tell them about any of those facts, and they approved his naturalization case. And then 2 months later, he was actually convicted of this serious crime, and he spent years in prison. Came out of prison, and in 2019 the Trump administration tried to denaturalize him. They started the process of revoking his citizenship, and they were successful, of course, with that process, and he ultimately ended up in removal proceedings before an immigration judge, and the judge issued a removal order against him, and he appealed, and he went to the BIA, Board of Immigration Appeals, and they said, well, we agree with the judge. You should have a removal order. And finally, he took his case all the way out to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. And you know what they said? They said, well, you can't deport this man. He was a U.S. citizen at the time he was convicted. At the time he was convicted, he was not an alien anymore under our law. He was a U.S. citizen, and he cannot be deported. So there's a number of things happening on the citizenship naturalization side of things. There are changes. I suspect maybe even his decision is going to be challenged. I think the Trump administration is going to obviously appeal this one because they've been trying to get him out of the country for a long time. And now, based on previous Supreme Court decisions and other things, other decisions along the way that said, well, you can't deport someone who is a citizen. That issue, guys, I really think is going to eventually go up to the Supreme Court. But for you out there, normal person who haven't done anything really wrong, citizenship is definitely the way to go if you're eligible for it. Okay. I'm getting a lot of questions about what if the parent is a green card holder, um, and whether the child will have U.S. citizenship. And the answer is yes, the child will have U.S. citizenship if the child is born to, if at least one of the parents is a green card holder, lawful permanent resident. If you're just joining, we're talking about breaking news from the U.S. Supreme Court involving birthright, the ability for the Trump administration to move forward with their executive order that some states have blocked, has been blocked by a nationwide injunction. The Supreme Court says that they cannot block this by a nationwide injunction. Class action lawsuits is the appropriate way to go about things. The Supreme Court has not ruled on the merits and the constitutionality of the executive order itself. It just ruled on the narrow issue of whether injunctions, a nationwide injunction, can block this executive order. And the Supreme Court said that it should not block an executive order. And the Supreme Court is given 30 days before this executive order can go into effect. 30 days. And during the next 30 days, the parties are going to regroup and figure out what their legal strategy is if they had not yet already thought it through, which I'm suspecting obviously they did. So the challenge is going to continue. Okay. But this is still very big news. So children who are born today and tomorrow, they will still be U.S. citizens despite this ruling today. Again, 30 days. In 28 states, the Republican-led states will be eager, I think, in some regards, to strip citizenship from new babies in the days ahead, unless there's a class action lawsuit that is brought. Maureen says, praying on this situation. I'm also seeing a lot of questions about whether this is applying to children who are already here. It does not. And children who are already here will not lose their citizenship. What happens to tourists who come to have their babies in the U.S.? Well, of course, through the executive order, they're trying to limit that practice as well. They want to get to what they call birthright tourism. They want to limit allowing these children who are born to visitors, people who are here temporarily on a visa. They're here lawfully, temporarily, but the child that is born here, the Trump administration is arguing, should not be considered a U.S. citizen. Okay. Let's see, what other questions can I answer before we wrap up? I'm late for a meeting. Is the goal to strip birthright citizenship from all born, or to prevent babies born after the executive order takes effect? So again, it's not nothing under our law is usually retroactive. Okay, so it's the intent here is to limit the ability of babies born to mothers who are undocumented here in the U.S., and the father is also undocumented, from becoming a U.S. citizen. That's the primary goal here. And then of visitors, people with temporary visas here lawfully, from coming to the U.S. for the purpose of having children in the U.S. They get into those issues. Those are the issues that the Trump administration is concerned about and targeting here. But again, the U.S. Supreme Court did not rule on the merits of the constitutionality of the executive order itself. It's just the ability of the court to stop it nationwide. That's where they have a problem. That's where they've drawn the line, 6-3 today in their decision. Okay. All right. The merits will be decided on in October, later on in the year. Let's see. Let's keep going before we wrap up. Someone says we are officially in a constitutional crisis. We are officially in a constitutional crisis. I thought the crisis actually started earlier, with the Abrego Garcia case. I thought that was a huge, and the violation involving sending those the violation of a court order, sending those men to El Salvador to seek COT, right, the terrorism prison. I thought the constitutional crisis actually started as early as then. The Supreme Court justices are they have just narrow lens when they're looking at an issue before them. It's really narrow. Just because we see the 66-3 decision today doesn't necessarily mean that all six of them, believe in the constitutionality of what this executive order is trying to do. It doesn't necessarily mean that. And I think Justice Barrett, interestingly enough, they chose her to write the opinion on this one. I'm watching her. I actually think that, she kind of remind me of Sandra Day O'Connor. She just flipped on them, right? She's not really who they all thought she is. She has ruled against the Trump administration in other cases. She's independent. She has a mind of her own. And I think I had a very different opinion about her, very, very different opinion about her years ago versus today. And I am watching her. I'm hanging on. I'm hanging on to her. No, but she's really, in other regards, I think that she's going to go the other way as far as the constitutionality of this. I think she's gonna not side with Trump on this one. But we'll see. That's just my opinion on this. But the constitutional crisis, I think, began a long time ago. Okay, let's see. If the father is a U.S. citizen and the mother is not, then the child will be a U.S. citizen. Okay, at least one parent needs to be a U.S. citizen or a green card holder in order for the child to be a U.S. citizen under the executive order. If you're joining today, we're talking about the breaking news from the U.S. Supreme Court involving nationwide injunctions and how it now helps the Trump administration move forward really with the executive order on birthright citizenship. But there is a 30-day pause on this executive order from going into effect to give the parties an opportunity to bring further challenges to the courts. I might do a deeper dive. I might do a deeper dive on this topic maybe later on this evening. I might do a deeper dive. Am I missing anything else? But that's it. All right, we're gonna have to wrap up. I think I'm late for a meeting. Do you have an office in Chicago? No, but we do work with clients nationwide. Do you practice in Louisiana? No, but we practice. Yes, we do practice in Louisiana. I should say we practice in Louisiana virtually. We are in court actually also through internet-based hearings for clients all over the U.S. One of our attorneys was here very late last night in court for a client on the West Coast for an individual hearing. So we have been representing clients nationwide. Although we're very picky about those types of cases, we really want to make sure that that you have a case before we say yes to your deportation matter in another state. But we practice in places like Louisiana and all over the U.S. What if one parent was undocumented but one is a U.S. citizen? I've already answered that one, that the child will be a U.S. citizen. Okay. Thank you guys for being with me today. Like I said, I'm going to do a deeper dive. I have some meetings that I've got to get to. So very busy afternoon. I just wanted to pop in, I guess, pop up and say to you guys that this is breaking news and I wanted you to be informed and to know about it. And again, go back and watch my videos from January about birthright citizenship just to get that foundation. And I'll try to do a deeper dive later on this evening for you guys. So continue to follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and McBean Immigration TV. Guys, thanks so much for being with me in this one, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye.